Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am Koala and this is my little nook in this end of the universe that we call YouTube. I am a shamanic practitioner mainly within the Nordic shamanism, but I'm also initiated into Nusta and the Munaki rites within the Kiro medicine. And I practice light language. And in this video I'm gonna continue the journey that you see in the title. So in this video there's gonna be there's some content warnings. I'm gonna put them up here on the screen now, so I will make sure to do like chapters or timestamps as well, so when I'm gonna talk about it you can skip ahead if you don't want to hear about that. So I'm gonna try my best to be as dividing what's the word? I'm gonna try my best to like keep those subjects where I keep them. So if I have failed with that, then editing me will put up a sign here right now that you shouldn't watch the video because the content is everywhere. But if it says it's okay, then it's okay, just so you know. Okay, so this is the third video on this topic, and we have now reached the end, the point in time where I realized my true self. So from within. So in the last video, in my second video on this topic, I talked about some of the things that helped me get to where I needed to be to realize these things about myself. I mentioned light language and theta healing, and there are so many tools and healing sessions or healing tools that I will be talking about during this immense journey that you are coming with me on. So today though I'm gonna focus more on the realization and then the fact that we need to take time to let things fall into place. So that's kind of what this video is gonna be about. So in the summer of 2022, that is 3 years ago, and it feels like half a lifetime, and it also feels like I should have been able to do this 20 years ago instead of 3 years ago. But I have mentioned some of my childhood already in the first video, and I'm not gonna dwell on that. So, but I do have moments in my life where I'm angry still, I'm upset, and I really want, or I really wish that I would have been able to do things much earlier, because this is not new to me really. It's not like I woke up 3 years ago and suddenly I was trans. What happened 3 years ago was I woke up and realized what I was feeling, and I finally had all the pieces of the puzzle. So this is where I'm gonna start. After I had received the theta healing, there was like a month or so where all I dreamed, because I process a lot of things in my dream world, and I also get a lot of messages from my guides and from my inner self and my higher self within my dreams. So for a long time after, it felt like a long time, but it wasn't. It was like a month or a month and a half after the theta healing. I had this, and maybe even before, I had these dreams where I was on a boat. I was on a boat and I was just looking for the shore. I was looking to the horizon and I was frustrated, and I was feeling all sorts of things because I didn't feel like I was in control of anything. I was just waiting for something and I didn't know what it was. In hindsight, what I was waiting for was for all of the pieces to be put together inside of me. So I was waiting for integration of everything that I had been through in the years before that. But I'm gonna do a little flashback here, or like a throwback. So I had one other incident that was kind of prominent to all of this, and that was me cutting ties with some family members, mainly my mother. So previously, before this, I had to cut ties with her because I had some realizations about hers and my relationship, and that it wasn't a good one, and I needed to process that. And I was still processing that, and I was still grieving. I was still going through a lot of things after that, because we all know that when a relationship ends, it doesn't just, your feelings just doesn't go away in an instant. You need to process. And when it's a family member that we need to cut ties with, the process up to that is a long and hard one, and it's not an easy choice. It's not something that happens overnight, even when it feels like it. For me, it was a 16-year-long process to actually take the step. And then when I did, it was because there was one incident that kind of tipped the bucket, and it was like everything was spilling out, and I had realization upon realization. It just washed over me, and all of that needed to be taken care of, and I needed to internalize all of that and externalize it. I needed to just let it flow through me, and I needed to be in that, and I also needed to come out on top of it, which is where I was with the boat. So I'm still processing some of that, but I'm not where I was. So 3 years ago, during that summer, I had a lot of things that I had been through in the last couple of years, leading up to that. And then during that summer, it was really me waiting for things to happen below the surface. So in the Nordic tradition, we have the element of ice that I have talked about, and I'm gonna put a card for that video here if you want to hear me talk about the element of ice. So in the element of ice in the Nordic tradition stands, among other things, for the stagnation and period of stillness that brings clarity. But there's also a lot of things happening beneath the surface that we can't see and can't control, and that's kind of where I was during that summer. There was a lot of things happening I couldn't see, so I felt frustrated because I felt like I was going nowhere and nothing was happening, and I was also a little bit depressed because there was so many things trying to fit inside of my head and my heart. And I think people around me really saw that and felt that. So, and that is also one side of the element of ice. So within the element of ice is Niflheim, that I've also talked about in another video. So ice is the rune. The rune of ice is the rune for Niflheim, and in Niflheim are all our fears and our phobias, and it's the stagnation is also the rune for depression. So the ice rune is the rune for depression, and I was a bit depressed during that because I was nowhere and everywhere, and I felt like I was going nowhere. I don't think I can tell you much more to relay the feeling. And then just out of the blue, it felt like in July 2022, I actually woke up one morning and I had a dream. And in that dream, I saw myself in the mirror as my true self. And there was a lot of things happening in the dream. It was like the dream let me know all of the pieces that had come together so far, and I was so happy in that dream. I was my true self. I was the me that I've always been inside, but never shown or been able to show or been able to express out into the world. And it was such a happy dream. It started with me seeing myself in the mirror, I think. Because I was getting ready for an event, meeting a lot of people in my life in this event. And then during the dream I met all of these people, and my partner was also in the dream, and it was just such a lovely dream. So I remember waking up from that dream and just feeling, oh, F-U-C-K. I just realized when I woke up, I just had this knowing that I can't, this is a breaking point. I can't live as I have lived before. So I continued to be a little bit depressed because I couldn't come out yet. I hadn't come out yet. This was just me realizing everything and still needing time to put everything together in my in my awareness state, my awakened state. So it had been lifted from the bottom of the sea, it had been lifted from below the eyes up into the light, and I needed to see it all and meet it all and just find ways to live it all. And I'm gonna talk about that in my next video. So I had a therapist once that told me that there are different kinds of depression. And there are a lot of kinds of depression, maybe there are even more than these, but she told me that the first kind of depression is the one where you don't know where it's coming from. And in that case it can be so many things coming together that you really need a plan. And that's also, if you are like bipolar or unipolar or something like that, then this might be the type of depression that you're struggling with, that goes so much deeper, and you can't really just find a cause for it and treat the cause very easily. Then there's one kind of depression that are because you are depressed, you are being pressured, and you can't find your way out of the pressure, and you might need help to find that way out of the pressure if you can't, because the more the time goes by, the deeper down you are being pressed. So that's like the definition of, in that case, deep. You are being depressed or decompressed. And then there's another version, another way of being depressed, which is when you are sad, or you're not sad, you're more than sad, but you don't really know what you're feeling, but there is a cause for it. So that's like a realistic. She told me this in Swedish, so I'm doing my best to explain it in English. So it's like you have a cause and a reason, a valid reason to feel the way that you do, and you just need the tools to not feel the way that you do. And this is not the case in every type of depression, of course, because there are different types. So for me, this is what was the case, because I was depressed because I felt like I couldn't be who I was, and I didn't know how to be that outwardly. So I needed to work with that, and when I woke up that morning, there was a lot of pieces coming together, and one was the feeling of finally being off the boat, and on the shore was the reason why I had felt so depressed, and that was because I couldn't be who I am, and also I could see myself. So I came off the boat and I saw myself in the mirror, and I was like, oh, that's the reason. And from that point on, I continued to be a little bit depressed until I could walk into the world as the person that I felt like I was inside. So that is and this is where I'm gonna talk a little bit about this is where the content warning is really setting in, okay, and the trigger warning, because during the period on the boat was one of 2 points in my journey that I really 3 points in my journey where I really felt like I didn't want to live, because I didn't want to live if I couldn't be myself. And I did feel a little bit like this before I had my realization, but even more so in the period of what I'm going to talk about in my next video. So this was like a life or death situation. So I woke up that morning and I felt like I really can't live like this anymore. I have to do something or I'm literally gonna die. And I even had a plan that I actually shared with my partner at one point. I don't remember when in the time frame that I talked to him about it, but I had like a breakdown, and I was so scared of telling him how I felt. But he was so wonderful, and he said that he was proud of me for saying that, for talking about it, and it eased the pressure a little bit on that. And so this period in my life was one of the worst periods, because it was like I know who I am. So that's how I felt back then. I know who I am, but no one else knows. And how do I come to that point from where I am now? And I just couldn't see it happening. I couldn't see it with my inner eye for a very long time. So in my next video I'm gonna talk more about what happened, how I came to the point where I could come out. So before I go, I'm gonna talk briefly about the other two periods where I really didn't feel like I wanted to go on living. And the first one was when I was about 16 years old, if I remember correctly. I could have been 17. I just remember which room I had when I lived at home. So back then I was also depressed, and the kind of depressed I was I didn't want to live anymore, but I didn't understand why, and I certainly didn't understand what I could do about it. But I did try to reach out, and all I was met with was gaslighting. So and not just gaslighting, I was met with so the person I thought I trusted the most in my life, I told that person, and the first reaction was that it was all about them. I wasn't significant. It was like it was so weird. I don't want to relay the conversation. I don't want to talk about who it was, because that's way too private. But let's just say that I tried to reach out, and all I got was this wall, and I was alone again. And that's when I retreated into myself for a very long time. And that is the moment where I most often go back to and feel like, if I just had another response. If I just had another response, I could have been where I am now 20 years ago, you know. So I do have that moment sometimes where I go back and just hold myself. I have done some healing around it, so I still have some kind of feelings towards the person. But with myself at that time, I have gone back and made some inner child healing work, and I've held myself in that moment and promised myself to take care of the situation, and to because I'm an adult now, so I can make my own choices. I don't need to rely on someone like I did back then. So I have done the inner child work, and I'm gonna talk more about inner child healing work during these videos in the future. And if I forget, or if there's a point where you think, well, I want to know more about that, tell me in the comment section on that video, and I will make a note of it, and maybe I will do a separate video on that topic. So the last time, so the first time I felt like that was that back then. The second time was 3 years ago. The third time was almost a year ago, and that was that had to do with my top surgery. So I'm gonna talk about that later on in this series when we are getting closer to the present day and when I reach the time of getting my mastectomy. So that's just a foreshadowing kind of thing, that when I get to that point I'm gonna talk about this topic again. So that's the end of this video, and to kind of summarize, the summer of 2022 was all about letting things happen beneath the surface and letting myself feel the weight. And I was constantly reminded of that in meditations, in the dreams, many dreams where I was just on the boat waiting. Another type of dream that I have when I'm in a waiting period in my life is that I'm at like a terminal of a sort. It can be a boat terminal or a bus terminal, or the latest one was an airplane terminal where I was just chatting with people, having something to eat between flights, but that's all it was for like several dreams. And I was just woke up each time and I was like, okay, so we're still waiting, are we? So it's so important on our journeys through life, whether it's a healing journey or maybe a breakup journey or finding a job journey, or whatever journey you're on, spiritual journey or whatever, you need to recognize the periods where you are just gonna wait, because it's not like nothing's happening. Remember the medicine of the eyes in that moment, that there are things happening beneath the surface. There's so many things happening beneath the surface. We often talk about this in the context of the ice age that we had in the northern hemisphere, where beneath the ice things were moving around. So the landscape before the ice took over and after the ice had withdrawn was not the same. It didn't look the same, but it was beautiful nonetheless, and it was a brand new world. So I want you to take that with you to moving forward, that if you are going whatever journey you are on right now, there are going to be moments where you are just waiting. You feel like the energies are stagnated and you can't control anything, and no matter how much you push, there's nothing happening. So be in that moment and let yourself be frustrated or whatever you need to be. Just let it be. And express anything that you need to express within a safe space so that you can continue with your weight. So until next time, walk in beauty with the medicine of the eyes, and I will see you next time. Xingling!